Cool.
All right.
We're
Well,
live.
hello, everybody. What was that?
We're live.
We're live.
Hello, everybody. It's October 3rd, 2025. We're in the Merchant's House, and this is the Spirit of Science. We've been away for a long time.
Summer sabbatical.
Yep. And we missed you all. And, as a special treat tonight, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Lee.
He's finally on camera.
Finally on camera.
You've been waiting for it.
I know.
Yep.
And he's been a good boy.
Yes.
So let him come on. Hi, Lee.
Yeah. Hello. Doesn't detect my arm movements, but
It
I
doesn't
waved.
move your hands?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Anyway, hello, everybody. And thanks for being patient with us, getting back on after all these months. When was the last time we were
I feel like it was May.
here? Really? Wow, man. Yeah.
May or
Wow.
June.
It gets unbearably hot in the house in the
Mm.
summer and the
Right.
warmer months. So it's really kind of impossible to do when it's like that. It's too hot. So so thanks for sticking in and hey, we've got some announcements to make. It is October, which
This
means
is the biggest month of the year at the Merchant's House, October.
yep, and they've got their yearly haunted house ghost tours here at the Merchant's House, which are a lot of fun. Do you know the date that they start? I believe it's the 24th.
No, I think they start the 18th. I
18th?
think they start the week before. Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't do it because the 18th is a Saturday because I get my teeth done on a Friday. And I
Oh,
know they're doing Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing, anyway, go to the website. It's www.merchantshouse.org and click first off at the homepage. You got to sign the petition to keep the evil developers who are right next door to us from building this obnoxiously nasty office building right next door, which would be just detrimental to the life here at the Merchant House. And all of our beautiful, I mean, the house was built in 1832 and all this stuff's original to 1832. So it would be a sin to let these guys do any kind of construction next door that all of the engineers and architects that the Merchant House is conferred with has all came 100%. I think they all said that it would be catastrophic
yeah.
to the Merchant's House.
Yeah, and I think even more importantly, this will not be an asset for the community. The community does not want it here. So it's unclear to me why the developer is being so persistent and insisting on building something that is not wanted, will cause serious damage to a neighborhood and city and national landmark. I mean, the whole thing just makes no sense to me whatsoever. But the petition is very important because we're gonna have a new mayor in November. Not sure yet who it's gonna be, but it's gonna be better than our current mayor, that's for sure.
Mhm.
And
Interesting.
so hopefully the new mayor
Yep.
will be very sympathetic to this cause. So please do go onto the website and sign the petition. If you come to the house, you can also sign a letter here that we will send in for you. We will not spam you, promise, promise, promise. But please do it if you can.
Although if Matilda takes the emails home, you will get,
No,
right, Matilda?
no, I
No.
don't spam.
Hey, listen, we've
I only
got,
spam you and Lee.
all right. We've got if anybody's got any questions or comments or anything they would like to talk about, we've got a little chat option
Yeah.
down on the bottom of your screen, and we've got a Q&A box, and we've got all kinds of stuff that you can do if you wanted to get a hold of us and tell us to stop talking about something or start talking about something. So,
today
so go ahead and if you've got any kind of treats for Lee, he would love those. He's a good boy. And
Yeah, and the
I
topic
just
of
wanna
today
say-
is different ghost hunting shows. So if there's one you want us to comment on, throw that in the
Yes.
chat.
Yes, exactly. I just
Yeah.
want to say one more thing about October before we go into the show
mhm.
is if you're in the city and you can come visit, the house is set up as a 19th century home and mourning. So we have a home funeral set up. We have a funeral reception set up. We have a lot of 19th century mourning jewelry on display, some of the mourning dresses from the Treadwell women. It's really incredible to see in person. So if you are in New York and you've never been or you want to visit again, October is a great time to come. And if you're not in New York, you can watch our house historian, Annie Haddad, did a whole lecture on 19th century mourning, which is on our YouTube channel, totally free, but extremely interesting. So I commend that to you.
Cool. And is this the month also that they do Mr. Treadwell's funeral? Do they take him to, is that this
We
month?
haven't done that in years.
Oh,
It used
yeah,
to
well, then never
be-
mind.
It used to be, but we have not done it in years.
I was the Reverend one year.
Oh,
so,
you were?
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun, actually. A lot of fun. Anyway, so here we are. We're talking about what ghost shows and gadgets and what you guys think about the current crop of ghost shows out there. And you know, in a related topic, Paranormal Court on Camera just got picked up for season 9.
Nice.
And shooting 9, but I think it's going to air as season 10. Just shot the first 2 episodes last week, and we've got some good clips. We've seen,
Yeah.
they were pretty good last week. Yeah, they were pretty good. And usually a lot of the clips, by the time I see them, they're either I've already saw them or they're, you know, not up to par, I would say. But this first 2 episodes had some pretty good clips on it, and stuff that I, you know, there was only one that I could totally figure out. It was totally fake.
Oh,
But
really? Oh,
but
that's
I shouldn't say that. But it was. And yeah, so you know, as far as ghost shows, you know, I think the one that everybody thinks of when they talk about the ghost hunting shows is Ghost Hunters,
right.
which came
Yeah.
out 2004, 2003, 2005, sometime around then. And it's really what put the paranormal field on the map publicly and in a mass way where everybody was watching this on the Sci-Fi Channel. I think for a lot of years they were the #1 show on the Sci-Fi Channel with Jason and Grant and Steve and all those guys. And I watched that show. I loved that show. And you know,
Were you doing this? Were you doing this before the show, Dan, or did you like?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And I got infinitely more busy once the show started to air,
Yeah,
and people
yeah.
had said, "Holy cow! You know, there are
Mhm.
people out there that do this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was good and bad. It did bring notoriety to the field, but then everybody wanted to have a ghost hunter come to their house. And anytime there was a creek, honestly, I was investigating with a group here in New York City, and every weekend we could have done 2 investigations Saturday and Sunday on both days.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was ridiculous how many calls we were getting, and you know, a lot of the people that we were getting contacted by, I think a lot of the people, there were a lot of elderly people, which is kind of sad. They were lonely and wanted company.
Yeah.
And but I'd say probably
Or you know, maybe beginning to suffer from some dementia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing things and hearing things that aren't there
Yeah.
is a symptom.
yeah.
There's there's known, I mean, like when your vision declines, there's definitely known, you know, one of the symptoms is you see things more blurry, so you start sort of thinking that you're seeing other things. And yeah. What was your sort of caseload like before that, Dan? Was it like maybe once a month kind of thing, or?
Not even close to once a month. It was mostly because I really didn't tell people that I was doing this stuff for a long time. And you know, it was mostly through word of mouth where I would get an investigation, and it was usually somebody that was close to somebody I knew and that knew that I would do this. So, you know, family and friends who were like, you know, you think your house is haunted? Because my friend Dan does that. But then once the shows came out, it was crazy. And I was working with a group called Paranormal Investigations in New York City with my bro Dom Villela, and who has moved south, so he's not doing it up here any longer. Yeah, but it was really kind of cool, and you know, I know a lot of people probably wouldn't say this, but we didn't know what the hell we were doing, you know? And a lot of people don't, and they use these shows as like a training ground. And and I'll admit that I was the same way, you know, every time I saw a gadget on Ghost Hunters, I went out and got it. And I was like, well, I guess we need a FLIR camera, and I guess we need, and I would figure out ways to get my hands on all this stuff. And it got to the point where, you know, when I would go on an investigation, I'd have to rent a van just to bring all the equipment. I had miles and miles of cable and cameras, and zero lux cameras and recorders, and then, you know, on top of all that, Dom had all that stuff. So we were coming in with, you know, just so much stuff. And now when I go on an investigation, I bring my backpack,
Mm,
and that's it. That's all you need.
mhm.
So
Do you think that they use all that equipment kind of as a foil for the fact that like either A, there's nothing there and they know that and they're trying to create intrigue, or B, they don't really know what they're doing, so they're just like, you know, like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it sticks?
I think probably a little bit of both, but more of the latter. You know, aside from Lee, but ghost hunting of mass, there is nothing that's been mass produced that can catch a ghost or tell you if a ghost is around you. Nothing, nothing. And anybody who tells you different is lying.
Mm,
You know, we use equipment, EMF meters and recorders, and we use equipment that is for normal everyday use, either you know, personal or for work, in the case of like an EMF meter. And these things are modified to work in the ghost field. So nothing's ever been created. And there's, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that watch this, and I'll get some angry emails going, what about, you know, Frank's box and the spirit boxes and all that stuff? They don't catch ghosts. They don't tell you if a ghost's there. What they're doing is spitting out words. And how are those words being spit out? It's like a random event generator that just chooses a word, and that's what you hear. Now, if there's some kind of correlation to the area, the location that you're doing an investigation, that's interesting. But it's not the spirits manipulating the EMF or manipulating the device to spit out a certain word. How would they know? How would they know?
Well, yeah, I mean, along those lines, though, I mean, like, if we're operating off the premise that we can detect ghosts in any way, then that's the premise that like they are some, you know, they have some kind of physical characteristics, like either emit light or modify EMF or whatever.
Right.
And you know, like, you know, when we said like they don't know what they're doing, I mean, honestly, none of us know what we're doing because,
Right.
you know, the ghosts haven't even been proven to exist yet, you know, in a scientific way. So, I mean, if we just start with the premise that like they can be detectable at all and there's even any chance of doing it, you know, it's not unreasonable if we're already believing that there's some invisible intelligent entities walking around that they could be know how to modify the EMF fields to like spit out just the word that they want, you know?
Right.
It
You
is
might,
an extra hand wave, you know, it is an extra kind of step that they would have to be able to figure out rather than just like cause an EMF spike. They'd have to like
right.
know how to cause EMF spikes to cause the word, but yeah.
Yeah, and like, how would they know which frequency corresponded with what word? You know,
Yeah, again though, we're
because
talking about
investigators don't even know that.
yeah.
You know,
yeah,
I would love if there was something. That'd be so awesome.
yeah,
But I think people kind of get carried away, and you know,
totally.
Lloyd
That's
Auerbach, who
true.
was on the show.
Yeah.
Actually,
Uh,
that was the last show that we did, I think.
oh, really?
Lloyd,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, Lloyd, he describes it, which is brilliant, as when you catch something on some of these devices, say an EMF meter, he said you're catching the wave of the boat, not the boat.
Mm,
Yeah.
And that's just a great analogy for this. When my natural tri-field EMF meter goes off here at the merchant's house, and I ask people, I said, do you think that's a ghost over there? And they go, oh my God, it's totally a ghost. I'm like, no, it's an EMF field that has changed, and the meter is measuring the difference in the change. And it doesn't mean that there's a ghost. It means there was a change in the EMF field. What changed the field? We don't know. It could be a lot of things. It could be us. It could be intentional PK, psychokinesis. Could be a thunderstorm rolling overhead. Roy, Lee, we had that happen when you had your equipment that you built up in
Yeah,
Eliza's bedroom right above where we're sitting.
yeah,
And yeah, storm went off and I think it looked like you had EMF
yeah.
LED lights in like
No,
jars
they,
almost like a
yeah, yeah. No,
bulb.
they totally got activated. We caught the thunder on audio too, so we were able
Yeah,
to correlate, say like, hey, look, like right when that went off, these things went off too, which is
right.
good. You know, it means they're functioning like they should. You know, they're detecting the EMF fluctuations that we hoped they would. But like you
Mhm.
said, Dan, like, yeah, like you definitely there is a percentage, and it might be like 90+% of the time, like people get carried away, right? Because we're playing in the noise floor. I mean, what you said about like just capturing the wake, though, I mean, us looking at you right now, we're just capturing the wake of your bodies. Like we're capturing photons that came from the sun, bounced off your face, and got captured by the camera. Like there's no actual, other than that, you in there. The only difference with ghosts is that instead of like this high fidelity, high resolution camera capturing photons that easily represent an image, it's like a really fuzzy image, and people are kind of squinting, and sometimes you think you see somebody in the image, a ghost, and sometimes you don't. But the image is so fuzzy that, like you said, like it's easy to get carried away, and like sometimes there will just be random noise that you interpret as something that's something other than noise, but it's just noise, and some of that it makes it easier when you use those devices that have those words, that spit out random words, because if there just happens to be something relevant, you can kind of go with it maybe more than you should.
Right. All right. And I think they're great tools,
Yeah.
but there's nothing that says, yes, there's a ghost here.
Yeah.
They're
Don't get
great
carried
tools
away. Yeah.
and they're cool things to have
Yeah.
in your toolkit,
Yeah.
but you can get carried away. And I was one of those
Totally.
who got carried away. I
Yeah.
had
Totally.
crazy stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I bought a microphone. It was like $1,200 and it recorded infrasound. And I was all excited until somebody pointed out, going, now you have to manipulate the EVP so you'll be able to hear it because you can't hear it right now. It's below 20 hertz. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, great. Now I gotta, now you have to manipulate something. And then everybody goes, oh, you manipulated your
Right.
EVP. And, and
Yeah.
they're correct.
Yeah.
So we got a couple questions here. Jenny, did you know Zach Bagans? I met Zach a few times and he was here at the Merchant's House shooting a promo for their show, Ghost Adventures.
Mhm.
Ghost Adventurers. I don't know. I haven't seen the show much. That is a great example of a show that I kind of watch for entertainment. I'm not looking,
They're very dramatic.
yeah, and everything's a demon
Yes. And Zach himself is very, very over the top.
yeah, and it works for him. It worked for the show, and he did real well for himself.
Well, he had
And
a breakdown, he bought what was supposed to be the most haunted house in America.
yeah,
And he had I don't know if he actually was doing an investigation there or he was.
You're talking about the movie, right?
Hmm?
They filmed the movie based off of that. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he had a breakdown.
Yeah. Or ostensibly so, but yeah.
yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lee. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really. Yeah,
It's possible. Yeah. I mean, like it could easily have been for show. It's like, oh, great. How do I make this actually, a cool movie? Like, let's have
Mhm.
a breakdown. But yeah, I mean, it can be true too.
Yeah,
It
and
was,
that
yeah.
house and that movie, I forget what it's called, but my buddy Chris Fleming and Chris, if anybody knows Chris or if Chris comes across this, man, I love you, brother, and keep getting better. He's dealing with some health issues right now, and for the last couple of years. But he was on there and he bought all that stuff because I was talking to him about it. I was like, I don't know, these guys, I don't know.
Mhm.
How do you go? Every investigation you go to is a freaking demon, and
know.
amazing things that happen.
I
I'm in
know.
a haunted house. We're in a haunted house right now that's pretty haunted, and lots of stuff happens. And I've come here for years and nothing's happened.
Mhm.
But every single and that's what you got to watch with these shows, and that was kind of a big eye opener for a lot of people because after these 2005, anybody that had an internet connection was a ghost hunter.
Mhm.
And they started a group and used their GoDaddy website or whatever they're called, or $12 website, and built a website, and suddenly they're a paranormal group. which is fine because it's fun and it's cool and I totally support that. But everybody was doing it, and after 6 months or so, suddenly you would see these groups kind of disappear,
Yeah.
and then a few was hung on. But
Well, I do find that the shows are very repetitive. It's sort of like River Monsters, like it's always a gar, like they are never discovering Nessie,
yeah,
right? And so it's like the shows, and they've been going on for years, so they obviously are very popular and
Right.
getting the viewership. But it seems like it's always the same thing.
yeah, yeah,
Always the
Well,
same thing.
in general, yeah, I agree. But there are, like, if you watch enough of them, sometimes they start doing kind of like interesting little mini experiments, or trying
yeah,
to, and to the extent that like it makes the results like that much more convincing. And then
Mhm.
I mean, there's like one example is like in Ghost Adventures, at one point they went to like a Western town or something that was supposedly haunted, and they went to a bar where somebody was apparently like killed, like stomped to death, their head or something in the bar. And they kept hearing, footsteps or like stomping sounds. And so then they set up like the those REM pods. They set them up in a row, like two or three or four of them along the bar. And then
mhm,
they left the room. They just started doing other stuff, and they left the camera watching it. And then you see this one of the REM pods light up repeatedly, and it's right at the spot where they said previously, like this person had been stomped to death. And at the same time, you're hearing these stomping sounds recorded on the camera too. So like
Mm.
the reason why that's a better experiment than just kind of walking around waving a sensor around is like they set these things up, they left the room, no humans involved, that no living humans involved. That's kind of the best way to avoid that kind of contamination. And then the fact that they set up multiple sensors side by side, when one sensor goes off, that can mean a million things. But when one sensor out of an array of sensors goes off, that makes it a lot harder to explain because if it is a lightning storm and lightning goes off, they should all
they
go
should
off,
all go. Right.
Exactly. So stuff like that.
And to explain also that EMF dissipates very quickly. So if you're next to one of these REM pods and you have your hand over it, it's gonna detect your hand and you're gonna
Yep.
get reaction from it. But if
Yep.
you can move your hand 3 inches away, 4 inches away, and it's not gonna receive it. So
Yep.
it's not something that somebody walking by 5 feet away or somebody behind
Yep.
the camera trying to get that. That's not what's happening.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, but the shows are they TV loves the gadgets and ghost hunters love their gadgets. And when Dom and I were working here in the city, we got a lot of press because it was New York City, and
Mhm.
we were in all the newspapers and all those little free newspapers, and we got a lot of press, and whenever we would shoot something for one of the morning shows or the news programs around October, Dom had an old Geiger counter that did it work? It might have turned on. But it was cool looking. It was yellow and it was big and it looked like a big giant floodlight, and it would beep and little lights would blink, and they wanted that on every news program we did. They had Dom walk around with that Geiger counter. And I'm going, guys, it doesn't even work, I mean, and we certainly don't know how to use it. I don't know how to use the Geiger counter. Lee, our handsome puppy here, knows how to do that, I'm sure. But yeah, so the TV, they have their things that they need to do. They need to produce a show that's entertaining and that
Yep.
people are going to stick with. I mean, if you were on a TV show and you said, "Hey, audience," and production company and network that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not
Yep.
millions, to produce these shows, hi, audience, you're not going to see
Yep.
anything, and nothing's going
Well,
to happen probably for 2 seasons or
Mhm.
something,
yeah, but one other possibility too is like even if the characters on the show, Zach or whoever,
Mhm.
even if they are trying to stay legit, I mean, like the producers, they give the least amount of care to legitimacy, right? So like they can, Dan, you mentioned on your investigations, you realized when you click your walkie-talkie, that can cause like an EMF detector to spike.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily any of the people on the show that are doing it, but like, hey, if I'm a show producer, yeah, I'm gonna hide on the floor underneath and click my radio so that, this REM pod goes off so that it
Yeah,
looks
100%,
and
100%. In
yeah, so
fact,
they're yeah, their reactions can be legitimate. They can be really surprised and not even know that somebody's messing with them. So
Yeah, I shot a pilot for a big gigantic producer that everybody knows. And he wanted to do a ghost show. And the production crew figured out that, you know, a K2 meter will spike if you do a mic check on your walkie-talkie. And they were doing that all the time. You know,
Yeah.
and I don't, K2 meters don't work, and so I'm not a big fan of those. But it probably looked really, really good on camera, and that's what sells. This one didn't.
Yeah.
Mm.
But you know, that's what sells, and I understand that. And you know, I've talked to all these guys on the shows and all the popular guys, and I go, come on, come on, there's no way. And they were like, well, we're not faking anything, but we have recreated some things.
Mm.
You know, so because it happened when the cameras weren't rolling, so let's
Yeah.
you know, let's show what happened while the cameras weren't rolling.
Yeah.
And you know, part of me agrees with that. The guy who's working on a ghost show, you know, agrees with that sort of.
Yeah.
But as an investigator who likes to think I've got a pretty decent reputation in the field, you know, that's BS.
Mhm.
It's BS. But I remember walking. I was with our friend Lloyd. We were in Philadelphia, and we were at a conference down there, and it was really hot. It was in the summer, and Lloyd and I are walking down the street back to the hotel. We went and had lunch and a beer, and we see the ghost hunter guys, and we're walking down the street like a mile back to the hotel, sweating our asses off. And we see the ghost hunters crew come out of a really nice restaurant and jump in a couple of SUVs and go back. And Lloyd goes, you know what, Dan, if I had compromised my integrity years ago, we would have been in one of those SUVs. And but you know, when you go to these conventions again with Lloyd, everybody was online to see the ghost hunters, and the ghost hunters, all I wanted to do was talk to Lloyd. Because Lloyd
Yeah.
knows, you know, he's the guy that.
Well,
these
he
guys
has
wanna be.
real gravitas.
Yeah, he's you know, he's the coolest.
We
But
just got. Did you see that note from Mary Amun Hickey?
yeah, I
It's
just
kinda
saw
cool.
something pop up.
Yeah,
The Canadian ghost show.
Canadian ghost shows.
Yeah,
What's,
you know, I haven't seen it. I don't have cable, so
Oh,
Yeah,
where can you watch the Canadian ghost shows?
Yeah.
this looks like Kindred Spirits, Ghost Brothers, Celebrity Ghost Stories. I think those ones might be on Discovery Channel too.
Oh, Celebrity Ghost Stories I've
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, and Ghost Brothers, one of the guys worked on Paranormal Caught on Camera, I think the last season or the season before, after that show ended. And you know, and that's kind of not, you know, a little plug for our little show. It's a viewer submission show, and they have they call them experts, but we're not experts. There's no expert. Well, Lloyd's sort of an expert, and I've met a couple people that I would consider experts, but they wouldn't.
Mhm.
And what I like about the show is that it's not just ghosts.
Right.
You know, so
yeah.
we'll get a Bigfoot videos. I think we do 8 clips an episode, 4 are ghosts, and then we'll have 1 UFO or 2 UFOs, a Bigfoot, a Loch Ness monster, or you know,
Oh, it's
something.
great.
And which is cool for a ghost guy, because then you know I'm looking up what the hell's a rake? You
Yeah.
know, have you ever heard of a rake?
Yeah, is that like a wraith or no?
I
don't
no,
know, or it's a
rake, and
monster.
it's like a humanoid figure that
Okay.
I don't know. I don't
No,
buy
I
into
don't
that. But I got to do research on that. You know, I'd never heard of it, and saw one of the clips and was like, okay, what's this all
Yeah.
about? Or
Yeah.
the tall man, the thin man, and you know, all that stuff. So it does give people that are watching a lot of options, and it's not just ghosts, and it's not, you know, you're not stuffing it down somebody's throat going, you know, an EMF fluctuation means your house is haunted, and it's amazing how many people. I mean, our show is popular, but not like any of these big shows, obviously. And
Well, they've got a lot of money behind them, a lot of
Yeah.
promo.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, and you know, and a great following.
Mhm.
And I tune into them every once in a while just to kind of see, you know, if I know anybody on there and where they are, and is it a cool place, and
Yeah.
you know what fancy gadget they're using now. Like now they use the Xbox Connect camera, and
Yeah.
what those
That's
are
the same as the XLS, right?
yeah, yeah, that makes
SLS.
the
Yeah,
stick figures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is not. those aren't ghosts. Those are,
Right.
you know, that little thing is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's looking for a human. It's going to look for any either horizontal line or vertical line, and it's going to add arms. It's going to add legs. And because it's not connected to the actual Xbox, it doesn't know what game you're playing, so it doesn't know how to dress you, and it doesn't know how to dress the area, and so you get a stick figure.
I'd
and
say
that-
like
Some shows present that as a real valid tool.
yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's a theoretical foundation by which it can work, but when you actually watch the shows and you see when it does ostensibly work, like you can tell that most of the time it's in a scenario that it's creating a fake signal, which is basically means like basically if I turned one on and I was pointing it at you two guys, it would show a little man standing in between your shoulders where that candlestick is, because that's got arms and it's got a leg and it's got a body.
Exactly. And his arms would be doing this. Oh my God, they were
Yeah,
touching us.
exactly. But
And,
in cases like if you watch them enough though, if you do see a scene where there's not that kind of thing in the background, that's something to, pique your interest at. Like the same thing with like the Western experiment. Like the more and even if let's say they have two of those cameras, like but from two drastically different angles looking at the same location, if they both show a stick figure, it at least increases I mean, in this case, if it's shining at the candlestick, like they're both, doesn't matter what angle, they're both going to show a little man standing there. But, basically, like the more complex the experiment they do on these shows, the more interesting it potentially is, because basically, like the more possibility is for it not to work by fluke, right? So, like, let's say, for instance, those random random word boxes, Dan.
yeah,
If you had two of those side by side and they both say the same word, that's awesome. That's pretty interesting.
Exactly,
well,
That's evidence.
statistically
Yeah,
very significant.
exactly. Yeah, so that becomes interesting. So kind of one thing that's cool about these shows is like realize why something is not convincing and think about how you would make it convincing and then try to do that same thing in your own ghost hunting.
right. Yeah. And when I watched those, especially in the beginning, I was looking at, the equipment that they had and the gadgets, and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. But exactly what you said, I was thinking about EMF meters
Yeah.
and you should get them to almost like sync up and
Yeah.
how come they're not? But
Yeah.
I was watching one of those shows once, and I actually heard one of the people on the show say, knock once for yes and don't knock for no.
Yeah.
And this is a really popular psychic medium. And so every time they would ask a question and they wouldn't hear anything, they would go, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, no. And and it's leading questions and, so
Yeah.
they're entertainment. They're there for entertainment. It's not hard science.
But
It's
just one caveat is like to that is just along the hard science side of like, people do picture science and scientists as like, oh, like you walk into the lab and everybody's wearing lab coats and everything's amazingly well controlled. Like when you walk into an actual science lab, like it's like a clusterfuck. It's like it's a mess. There's things kind of scrapped together, thrown together. Like any experiment is better than no experiment as long as you know how to interpret the data and you don't over interpret it or whatever. You recognize your own failings in your experiment, and you just kind of like you can conduct your experiment initially to like give a benefit towards something happening randomly or whatever, as long as you recognize that limitation and you try to improve the experiment next time and try to do it in a more controlled way or whatever. But like when it's such an open field and there's so little known, like you kind of do have to just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And then you do the experiment again and you only throw macaroni at the wall this time instead of, like spaghetti, and you keep refining the experiment I mean, you can start by not trying to disappoint yourself and trying to get something interesting, but after you get that initial inkling, you should try to basically disappoint yourself. Like design the experiment in a way that like if it's true, it won't work and you'll be, disappointed. But like you can find a way, even in that case, to like realize, okay, well, it didn't work, but like maybe this is why it didn't work. Maybe I should change the experiment and try it again. So it's not always like so yeah, that's the one caveat.
I got into a pretty heated argument with a couple of ghost hunter guys about that camera, that Xbox camera. And I'm like, well, describe to me what's going on with the camera. Oh, it shoots out these infrared lights and it's blah blah blah. I said, oh, cool. Well, then when you have that on, and you're looking on a stick figure, can't you put on your infrared, say, video camera and
Mhm.
Yeah.
see what it is? And they were
Yeah.
like, well, I never thought of that. I'm like, well, that would have
Yeah.
been the first thing that you should have done. You
Yeah,
would have
Yeah.
captured it then. But
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, it's
Exactly.
again, that's that's the kind of cool thing about this field as well. Going, hopefully they went, oh yeah, we should have tried,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they'll try it maybe now in the future. But
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
really upset.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a difference too between shows that use all that kind of technical equipment and shows that use human beings, like a lot of the ghost hunting shows that use mediums. My
Yeah.
favorite is The Dead Files.
Yeah. I was gonna
I
say the same thing.
love that show.
It's really
I
good.
love
Yeah.
the detective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Amy Allen. I'm
Yeah.
so sad that she left and
Yeah.
they
And
have
the cool thing about that makes it more of like I said, like the more complex the experiment, the more convincing it is. The cool thing about that is they ostensibly have these, the detective, like you mentioned, and the medium separately approach the situation and do their own separate investigations. Then only at
Right.
the end they compare them and sort of see where there's overlap. And that's kind of like having the two, word generators next to each other. It's like two separate entities, and if they both generate the same thing, that's more convincing. So that's I
Yeah.
agree. I like that show too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not in production anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't think so either. Yeah.
I watch
But
it.
it ran for a long time.
I've never seen an episode. I've
Oh,
seen
you
it.
have to watch
Yeah, I've
it.
Yeah.
seen it, and I like the idea of like a detective, and I
Yeah.
was it New York City detective.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
total New York City
Yeah.
cop.
And
Totally.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I've actually emailed back and forth with that guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
His
He's-
name Anthony?
I don't remember.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe we
But-
can get him to be on the show.
Yeah, we'll
Give
see.
you email.
Yeah. The one sort of caveat to that is like, from an editing perspective, they can edit it in a way to like, strip out as much as possible that doesn't overlap between the stories and
Sure.
show only, but aside from that, like, yeah, whatever, that's showbiz. But I do like the general premise. It's a good approach to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And back when we were talking earlier and about like science and how you hope to fail sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said earlier, there have been years when I've come here and nothing's gone on. Nothing.
Well,
Not
there
even
was-
a creepy feeling. It's
Yes.
just nothing.
Yeah.
And then this month,
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year,
Yeah.
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 we had I want to say it's the most remarkable
Yeah.
event.
Yeah, multiple people all seeing the same thing, just like we were just talking about, makes it a lot more convincing.
Right.
All separate people. They weren't all coming from the same family or anything like that.
Correct. And
Yeah.
what I think is most interesting is the brother and sister, and the brother saying to the sister,
Yeah.
"Don't you see that lady?" And she couldn't see her,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That was
So
cool.
only certain people could see her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
So
intriguing.
that guy, he might have some mediumship abilities that he wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that they're brother and sister, and they're made up of the same thing. We all are, but more so for siblings. And he was able to have an experience, and she wasn't.
Mhm.
And it's like an investigation here using two of the same recorders up in Mr. Treadwell's room, and having 5 recorders going, and a couple of them were the same recorders, and only one recorder caught the piano playing.
Mm.
And so that's kind of cool. And those are the things that those 2 or 3 years where nothing happened, that legitimizes the stuff when it does happen.
Yeah, it's true. Mhm.
When I was coming here, when I first started coming here, we were shooting like 70%. God, that sounded Long Island, didn't it? 70%. 70%, 7 out of 10 investigations, we were getting really good stuff. And I'm really picky with the data that I collect, and I have thrown out a lot of EVP that a lot of people would have thought was gold.
Mhm.
And so it makes, when nothing happens, while it's a drag to listen to 24 hours of audio, which is the same conversation, or watching 24 hours of video of a door not moving, it's a drag, and it makes you feel like you're you're wasting your time. But then like last October, when something like that happens, you go, oh, all right. But when I first started coming here, we were getting a lot more things happening than we are now.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I haven't been able to investigate here as often as I was. And it's been, you know,
Part of it, I mean, like it seems like in general, like activity kind of does kick up when Halloween starts because all the crowds start coming in. It's sort of adding energy to the atmosphere, of all these people. And then like that might play into sort of why you had that experience of like you yourself are, you mentioned before like, oh, the ghosts are getting bored with me, but it might actually be the opposite. Like you yourself are kind of, it's like boilerplate, like, oh, I'm going, doing the same thing again. So you might be contributing less energy to the environment with each
right.
subsequent time too. So
Yeah.
before
And,
when you first go there,
you got to remember when we're talking about ghosts, we're talking about people.
Mhm.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and people who just don't have a body, but they're people
yeah,
and they're going to
yeah,
react to things like
yeah,
people do.
yeah,
And so, we do get a lot of activity in December when this place looks all
yeah,
dressed up for
yeah,
Christmas and people are in a great mood. So,
yeah.
if
And
you were
they
a person, where would you want to hang out?
Right.
exactly,
You
yeah.
want to hang out with Dan, who's like a downer, and maybe that's why it's been a little quiet for me.
Yeah,
Um,
you just want to, yeah, if you go in there with energy, yeah,
Something else
they'll,
about December too is that we have the Christmas Carol, which goes on 5 or 6 nights out of the week.
yeah,
So there are a lot of people in here and there's
yeah,
actual, it's like there's a performance going on.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, I mean, this place becomes a theater,
Yeah,
yeah,
we do on the show.
and lots of volunteers
Yeah.
who come in
yeah,
to assist. So the house is fuller on
yeah,
a regular basis in December, I would say,
yeah.
than any other time of the
And
year.
I mean, along those lines, like, if we do want to give shows the benefit of the doubt, that what we just described would be a potential explanation for why Ghost Adventures does have more stuff if that stuff is indeed true, right? Because like you said, Matilda, like they freak out like little babies at every little thing that happens. And like if I'm a ghost and I'm, kind of want to have a good time, like that's,
Yeah,
it's more exciting, it's more interesting.
to play with them,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
play with
yeah,
them.
yeah. So, just kind of think about like you as a person, if you were a ghost, like who you'd want to hang out with and interact with and stuff. And if a new person comes into your house, when Dan first did, yeah, you're gonna interact with him. And then once he's come in for a year, it's like, oh, okay, it's Dan again, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're bored with you, Dan.
Oh, I
Well,
don't
just in
blame them.
general, Dan gets bored with me, and humans get bored with humans,
Yeah.
when they first come in. So it's
Never
just,
get bored with you, Lee.
Especially not
okay.
in your beautiful dog.
Yeah, I love
Dog
this.
form.
We're talking to Lee. We were talking about hard science, and people who don't know yet, Lee is a hard scientist. He's a scientist,
Yeah.
I almost called her a neurologist, but you're a neuroscientist,
Yeah.
and he's a dog avatar right now. And we see the dog looking around, and
And a green sweater.
yeah,
Yeah.
who would you trust more, like the guy in his lab coat, or
We
floppy?
should maybe for the Merchant's House investigations, we should show up dressed up like animals. It makes it more interesting to interact with us. It's like a new thing, right? Go in there dressed up like dogs.
Yeah, let's not get too crazy, Lee. And but we were talking about equipment earlier, and I said no equipment has been mass produced that can detect a ghost or at least tell you that it's a ghost, where you can be 100% confident that you interacted with a spirit. However, Lee is creating and building equipment,
The Treadwell Tower.
the Treadwell
Yeah.
Tower.
Yeah.
He's building things that are specific for the house, and in some cases specific for a room. And you know, it's remarkable, and it's not mass produced, at least not yet. And
Bespoke. It's bespoke.
it's bespoke.
Yeah.
That's the word. I'm gonna look it up when I go home. Jenny wants to know, what do you think of the Holzer file shows? I tell you what, I'm sort of on the fence with them, and I've got a personal issue with that I won't get into. I was friends with Hans Holzer, and
We did a show on Hans Holzer.
yeah,
It was one of the most viewed shows
Really?
of all of ours.
yeah, he was a pretty special guy, and who didn't really use equipment.
Mhm.
Harry Price, who investigated the Borley Rectory in the early 1900s, he did a year-long investigation, had people come live at the house. He rented the house he leased it for a year.
Huh.
And he investigated that place with a notebook and a pencil,
Mhm.
and got, collected amazing data. But Holzer Files, I gotta tell you, I've become very good friends with Dave Schrader, and only met him in May. I knew of him. I guess we knew of each other a little bit. Dave is a very popular person in the paranormal world. He's been on lots of shows. He's on a show now, and he was on the Holzer Files. And I met him in May, and stuff happened here at the Merchant's House. The Holzer Files did a episode on the Merchant's House, and really like amazing things happened, which I'd never seen before.
Like what?
Both of
Doors.
these doors like
Yeah.
flew open,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
I didn't even know
it's
that they were shooting that here, and
Yeah.
I think there was a reason for that, because I probably would have said that didn't happen. But that kind of stuff has never happened to me. But Dave and I bonded over music, and we become really, really. I love Dave, but the Holzer File shows. I watched the Merchant's House one, and I think that might have been the only one I watched.
I've
the
never seen it.
production value's awesome. Like it's
Is it
really,
good?
yeah, it's really well put together, and it's a really cool premise too. How they're just kind of going through each existing Holzer Files case and sort of trying to replicate. It's really engaging. It's really well done in terms of how it's put together. And then
Where can you see it?
I
that
think it
on
used to
like
be on
Netflix?
Discovery, but I'm not
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
probably
sure.
streaming somewhere for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And YouTube, you can probably,
Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, then the doors flying open, like we had never noticed that kind of thing, but that might have just been a case of one, they had that psychic with them, and two, like they're all new people, right? It's the same kind of thing when you first came in, like
No.
it might have been bull crap too. I know that,
No. The
yeah,
answer is no. Nope.
definitely. But I'm just saying, like, if there is an explanation, those can be it. That can be part of it. So, yeah. Yeah. But the show is great. If you're just watching stuff for entertainment, definitely watch it. It's one of the better ones. But
I'll
and
check it out.
honestly, the evidence that they show, if it is real, regardless of the Merchant's House one in particular or whatever, it's pretty incredible. And honestly, it seems like, in my mind, it seems like it might be possible because they had the psychic with them. That seems like a pretty, cool, legit psychic. And then in general, like they were kind of both uh, interested and excitable too and stuff. So, and they're, new on the scene in each of these places. So that can make the ghost possibly more excited, just like a human would be. So yeah, there's reason to suspect that like truly intriguing stuff might be happening and captured on the show. Yeah. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Lee, of all the things that you built for the house here,
Yeah.
what do you think now? I've noticed the stuff in the beginning as opposed to the stuff that you're doing now. It's a lot, I don't want to say elaborate, but
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing that you've built here, or what do you think is the piece of equipment that would leave no doubt in your mind?
Yeah. It's an extension of the stuff we started with that I think we'll probably at this haunted whatever at this October they'll show like that data that we collected previously, which it's an extension of that. So that data was kind of what we were talking about earlier, of like multiple identical sensors next to each other and then only seeing some of them react, which is something that is harder to explain than if only one reacts. So we saw that happening. So what's even more convincing is instead of multiple of the same sensor, you can have multiple of the same sensor, but then you also have other types of sensors that detect things in different ways or detect different types of anomalies and fluctuations. And if all those go off at the same time, that's even more intriguing because like, one sort of thing can cause EMF spike, like, a walkie-talkie going off, but an EMF spike is not going to cause a word to show up in your audio recorder, right?
Right.
So if you get an EMF spike and a word shows up on your audio recorder at the same time, okay, that wasn't a walkie-talkie click, so it just each additional type of sensor that you add that detects something anomalous at the same time point makes it more intriguing. And that's sort of the key aspect, like that time point aspect, like timestamps. To
Mhm,
get your data synchronized across all these different sensors, whether it's the same sensor or different types,
mhm.
that's imperative to, that's what makes things convincing. Because then if you see that weird spike, even if it's just a little bit above the noise level, but you see it on 2 or 3 or 4 sensors simultaneously, like now you have something interesting because it's basically like saying, I didn't just see, Dan on the screen. I also like detected his heat signature with my thermal camera, so I know there's actually a human there. It's not just a cardboard cutout. And I also detected his voice with my audio detector, so I know, it was like a voice came out of him, so I know he's real. It's just kind of the more angles you can get on this whatever phenomena you're trying to record, like the more you can characterize it as like it is this and not that. It's not a lightning strike. It's not, microwave turning on. It's not whatever. So
Mhm.
Will the new equipment that you're building, will it be able to do that?
yeah, that's the idea behind the Treadwell Tower. Like it's a tower because it has to kind of has all these different types of sensors at the same
Mhm.
time. And then the other aspect too is the most convincing thing in science, like, in the best journals, there can be these like really big papers that come out that attract a lot of attention and like a lot of people get into this new science field is visual data, right? So like you might be getting hints of things of like how a cell protein works or something, right? And you might spend 10, 15 years detecting via different instruments like, oh, the protein does this, then it does that. But once you make a methodology that lets you like see that protein in action, like you actually see like the glow start in this side of the cell and then the glow like moves across like with fluorescence or whatever, that's a home run, It's like once you make something visual, it just makes everything so much more convincing. So one integral part of the Treadwell Tower is to add those visual aspects. Like, Dan, you and I, when we set up your cameras, during the pandemic, we were recording some interesting stuff, but
Yeah.
on its own, it wasn't on its own fully convincing. So we need to combine that visual stuff with all the other sensors, and then if we see something fly by and the EMF goes off, and like this other thing goes off, and we detect a voice, like that's incredible, right? That's like becomes much more convincing.
Yeah, when I'm speaking about this stuff, I always talk about your paranormal investigator checklist.
Yeah,
And there are things, if you just have one check on your list, all right, you caught
yeah,
something that was odd, but
yeah, yeah,
it by itself really doesn't mean anything. But
yeah,
you go, okay, you're at a location where people have experienced something similar.
yeah,
And you caught an EVP at the same time, and
yeah,
the Treadwell Tower registered something. And yeah, again, you're just crossing all these things off. And
Mhm.
yeah,
again, that's not 100% proof that you were
yeah,
dealing with a spirit, but it
yeah,
certainly is leading you in the right direction.
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
Will it be
And
ready, Lee, maybe for December, if December can be
possibly,
busy time?
possibly, yeah. There's a
And when
big
people
project I'm
come,
working
they'll be
on.
able to see it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a big project I've been working on this year that I'm hoping to be done with soon in the next week or two, and then might be able to work again on the Treadwell Tower thing. But yeah. I mean, to Dan's point, one thing to keep in mind that can act as kind of like encouragement for this is nothing in science is 100% proven, right?
Right.
That's science. So like all you can do, you're just incrementally trying to add another percentage probability that like what you're seeing is indeed what you think. And so every little percent you can add, every new data point, that replicability is really important too. So like once you've gotten something that like you think truly is recording something via various types of sensors and it looks convincing, now you have to give that same tool to somebody else and have them record that same data just because that the final piece is always like, okay, there's all this data and it looks really cool, but like maybe you're full of shit and you're just faking all this stuff. So now I need to make sure that when I give to somebody else, they also get this kind of thing. So that's the last important part to like kind of more fully finally get closer to that 100%, but you never get to the 100%,
right.
probability and convincingness in science.
Yeah, and what I like about parapsychology and about, people like you, Lee, and Matilda, and the stuff that Lee's doing here at the house, science doesn't ask for help from the public at all, really.
Mhm.
And except for like astronomy and
Yep.
sky
Yep.
watching, and those scientists really rely on amateur astronomers to you know, find
Yeah.
pilots. And there are
Yep,
people
yep,
that, you know, are working behind a deli counter,
yep,
can find an exoplanet
Yep.
and, you know, send their data or what they've collected
yep,
to the astronomers, and
yep,
they then can, you know, confirm or, you know,
yep,
say that that's not what you caught.
yep,
And parapsychology is like that now.
Mhm.
yep, yep,
And you've got, you know, when I catch something really, really great, and you know, I send it out to people, to, you know, Lloyd or whoever, and now Dave Schrader, I'll be sending stuff to.
yep,
It also goes to the Rhine Research Center because, you know, we've got an active house here, but it's hard for people from North Carolina to come up and do some of their experiments.
Right.
So I send them all the data that I collect here, and it's just
yep,
adding to them. And not that I
yep.
am not a scientist by any stretch at all. And but these
Well, I wouldn't, yeah, again, like I would say, I wouldn't say that, you know, it's like, you've conducted some cool experiments at the Merchants House Museum that it's the same thing, you know, the scientists that are in the Serengeti observing cheetahs and monkeys, like they're scientists. There's different levels of, you know, uncertainty and different levels of convincingness of data you can get. But like when you're doing field research, which you're doing, like
Mhm.
that's, you know, I wouldn't, yeah, it's a spectrum. And I don't like people saying like, I'm not a scientist. Because again, like all being a scientist means is like you're doing stuff and you're trying to get to the truth and you're conducting experiments. And there's different levels of quality of those experiments in terms of like what comes out of them has different levels of convincingness. But you're already, you know, one at minimum one step, if not two or more steps above kind of these, you know, shows that are just trying to make money and not doing experiments. They're just getting a stick figure and pretending, you know, pretending like it's real, even if they kind of know themselves that it's not. At least you're trying to convince yourself, you know, you're okay with, like you said, like not getting something for a couple of years. Like you know, there's a spectrum of being different, you know, rigorousness of scientists, and you're definitely, you know, on that spectrum above a lot of other people. So yeah, I don't like, yeah, when you say that, I would say you are, you know, you're more of a scientist than a lot of other people doing this stuff.
So you're saying I'm cool,
Yeah.
cool. Hey, listen, this hour went fast.
Yeah. I
And
think I'm just spellbound by the Lee's dog avatar.
yeah, so how many hours in dog hours did this feel like, Lee?
Yeah, I don't know. No, yeah, I agree. It went fast. I'm surprised that the hour's even over. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we have to get out of here because I'm freaking exhausted.
Yeah, I
gotta
know.
go to bed.
So we'll be back next month, and I had proposed
Mhm.
that we talk about witches.
Okay. I know zero.
How do you feel, Lee?
Sure. Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe I'll ask Kathy to come down because she's a witch.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect.
And
Yes. I just got back from Salem. That's why it's on my mind.
all right, yeah,
Cool.
so we'll do witches. And I'll ask if it's cool with you guys. I'll ask Kathy Nadell. She's been on the show.
Absolutely,
She's
yeah.
psychic medium. She's really, really good.
Yes.
Uh yeah, she's got an amazing ability. And but she's a witch.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
yeah, so we'll do that. So all right, well, thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you.
Don't forget to go to the Merchants House website, and it's, what is it again?
Merchantshouse.org.
Merchantshouse.org. I never know the Merchants House, but merchantshouse.org. And go there and buy some ghost tickets and
Come see us.
yeah, the the tour start at 6 or 6:30, I think 6. And I do the 9:30 tour, which is the last tour of the evening. And you're gonna be with me on a couple of them, right?
I will be with you on the 24th.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Because I
I'm
like,
working on that whole night. I'm working.
oh, all right. Oh, there Diego. Diego Garrido, somebody we all know and love. A good doggy, Dr. Lee. Good doggy. Yeah, so go there, purchase the ticket, support the house, support the fight against the evil developers next door. You can do that for free, just signing the petition, or you could use some of your hard-earned money and take one of the tours. I will say that all the money that is collected for the tours, nobody here gets paid. It's all volunteers. And so all the money that is spent, all your hard-earned money, it's not going to me and Matilda and Lee going out and having drinks afterwards. It's all going to to save this house and keep this house as Papa would have liked it.
Yes,
Look at that. I almost went.
yes.
So, so we'll end on that. I know Pi would appreciate that, and we love Pi, and I love you guys. So, at least let's stay on. We'll end the show because I want to tell you about the Holzer files.
Okay.
And
Cool.
yeah. So, so we're gonna end the show. Thanks everybody for coming in. Thank you for the questions. Jenny, you rock. You're always great to interact with us, and you guys have a great evening, a nice weekend, and hopefully we'll see you at the end of October.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
Cool.
All right. Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Have a
Bye,
good
everybody.
Witches next time.
Yeah.